All right, 21 past the 4 o'clock hours. We do every Tuesday. We welcome in our good friend Johnny Mack. John McMullen covers the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFL as well. Give him a follow on Twitter if you guys love engaging Eagles conversation as well, at JF McMullen. And, of course, check him out on Birds 365 show with Jody Mack. So with that, we punch up Johnny Mack on a Tuesday. What's up, pal?
Hey, Rick, I like that. Engaging. Very engaging.
Yeah, engaging is good. That's what you want to be, right?
I am. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you are
That's
definitely.
why I appreciate it.
You definitely are. All right, so, you wait for teams to lose games and everyone just wants to go off, right? And that was a tough game. I actually had it 23-20 either way on Sunday. You hate the fact if you're an Eagles fan, you were in it and you lose it late. I mean, Justin Herbert just looked like Fouts back there. I want to get into him in a moment, but defensively, where are you at with the Philadelphia Eagles? Do you think that this team's defense is just flat out broken? How much blame do you put on Gannon? And I said this during the mono. I think that loss of Brandon Graham has really been significant.
Yeah, I mean, well, number one, they have not been able to replace Brandon Graham. And I think, as strange as it is, considering what he was when he came out in the draft and such a high pick, he's always been an underrated player for whatever reason. It's kind of strange to explain, but people just don't realize how good he is. Not only, I think it's because he's never had the double-digit sacks and everybody, that's the be-all, end-all for far too many people. And he's such a good all-around player, not only rushing the passer, but also in the run game. Kind of broke that defensive line. And that was the plan coming into the season. The defensive line would be one of the best in the NFL, and they would mask some of the deficiencies on the back end. Turns out the defensive line has been bad since Brandon went down. Even Javon Hargrave, he got all the accolades had a great month, and since then he's done virtually nothing. So Fletcher Cox has taken a lot of hits. He's obviously a descending player. Josh Sweat hasn't taken that step forward that everyone was hoping for. Derek Barnett is playing poorly. It was supposed to be a strength of the team. It's turned into a weakness. I mean, Justin Herbert, you mentioned him, dropped 41 times, Rich. He didn't get hit once. He did get hit once. Steve Nelson hit him on a blitz, but the Eagles got flagged, so you waved that off. That's it. That's the only time they hit him.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to nitpick. When you're a bad team, sometimes you just have to overcome certain things. And you mentioned Barnett. I mean, look, everyone dubbed him the next Reggie White when they drafted him. I don't even know if you want to call him a bust, but he's a frustrating player. And what happens? Death taxes and Barnett good for some type of penalty. Now, it didn't keep a drive alive, but it set up third and short, which allowed the drive to continue. It just seems every single solitary week, this guy gets penalized and flagged.
Yeah, he's gotten that reputation. I mean, I do think it's a little bit overblown. Anytime you have you saw it last night with Pittsburgh and Chicago. I mean, anytime you have the pre-snap penalties, whether it's offense, whether it's the false starts, or you're lining up in the neutral zone, or you're going off offsides, that's the kind of stuff that drives you crazy as a coach. And he's gotten a reputation as a player who's going to pick up personal fouls on occasion. And, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is that he was drafted. He was a first-round pick. He was 14 overall. He's never lived up to those expectations. But overall, he was a good player. This year, he's not even been that. So, I mean, in years past, you could say there were some injury concerns. He couldn't stay on the field. But when he was on the field, he was a good player. If you drafted him in the second round, you'd probably say, oh, that's a nice contributor. So all of that had to do with being the first-round pick and not living up to expectations. But this season, he's not even that. He's not even been a good player, and that's had a drastic effect on the Eagles, especially after Graham. Remember, when Graham goes out, you have that great rotation, and maybe you could deal with one of the three not playing that well. Without Graham, you need both Barnett and Sweat to play well. and neither of them are playing all that well, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I think when you look at Gannon, you can say, hey, man, you know what? The guy's somewhat lacking in personnel. Okay, fine. It's Roseman's poor drafts, free agent signings, right? All these contracts. Everything's coming home to roost right about now. So that's been a factor for the last several years. I can't sweep it under the rug. How do you assess right now Gannon's performance as a DC?
Well, the results aren't there. I mean, I think the number is 5 out of 9 games opposing quarterbacks have completed 80% or more. So if you go back to 70 years prior, a 6 total against the Eagles defense. Now, the game has changed drastically. It's easier to throw the football than ever before. But, I mean, that's just not good enough. So you try to figure out, okay, what's going on? And part of it is a lack of personnel. Part of it is they're more passive. They play too much zone. And that kind of stuff is what Gannon can fix. But, you know, the goal is to limit explosive passing plays, and the Eagles have largely done that. They're at the top of the league as far as giving up the fewest explosive passing plays. They're just getting beaten with these 15, 16-play drives. And you saw it. They tied the game against the Chargers, and excuse me, you know, I think there were 6:07 on the clock.
Yeah,
they siphoned that entire thing. So the goal, if you think about Tony Dungy and cover 2 and all that, the goal is if you're going to march 15, 16 plays, you're going to make a mistake.
Yep.
And by the way, I think that's a good plan in the modern NFL because you know what's going to happen, Rich. Over 16 plays in this game, you're going to see a flag. You're going to see a false start. They're going to call you for holding. They might call you for a stupid taunting penalty.
Yep.
And when these things happen, the Eagles still can't get off the field.
No.
And that's the personnel part of it.
It's a really good point you bring up. They had 4th and 1 at the Eagles 39. It was Eckler for 2. They were faced with another. Where is I just pulled it up? Pardon me. They had the 4th and 2.
Fourth
they had
and 1 on Herbert.
Yep, on the sneak for 1. They had a 3rd as well, which set up the 4th and 1. They had a 3rd and 5. They converted. So you're right. I mean, you have to be able to get off the field. And the bottom line is they could not get to the quarterback at all. Now you look at the other quarterback on the other side of it in Jalen Hurts. The numbers aren't gaudy. And I was having this conversation with a couple buddies, just going back and forth via text during the game. You know, he's a game player, right? He's game. But you brought this out. You said it when they drafted him. You called it over the summer. The accuracy issues, you're starting to really see that. The missed throw to Goddard, the one to Smith. I mean, these are ones that an NFL quarterback, you got to make. Now, does it change the complexion of a game? In some instances, it does. Can it change the complexion of a season? Absolutely. So when you look at Hurts through 9 weeks, I mean, your opinion still hasn't changed, correct?
No, I mean, I've been pretty consistent. The Eagles don't want to play this form of offense or in a long-term fashion, and they'll look to go in a different direction. Now, it doesn't mean that'll happen in 2022 because, you know, they might not be able to get to Russell Wilson. They're certainly not going to be able to get an Aaron Rodgers. We know Deshaun Watson still hasn't, even entertained the thought of playing in Philadelphia, so no use opening that avenue, even if he gets his personal issues cleared up. And then you talked about the draft, and it's still early, but this is not shaping up as a top-tier quarterback draft. So unless you like Kenny Pickett or somebody like that, you might say, hey, we have to use a bridge for another season. And you go about it that way. So it's not necessarily that Jalen Hurts can't be here next year, can't be the starting quarterback, but long-term, yeah, they don't want to play this form of offense. And I don't disagree with the organization because while you can win this way, the margin of error is so small. If you're a game manager type, you see Alex Smith all those years would be a perfect example of a guy who won a lot of football games when he figured it out. But you knew you had a ceiling. And that's why, John Harbaugh benched him for Colin Kaepernick back in the day, even though he was winning games. And you were always looking at the other side of the fence, the bigger and better deal. And I think the Eagles are looking that way. They like the kid. They like his work ethic. They like the intangibles, the leadership, all that stuff. But they know there's limitations.
Now they've got a game coming against Denver that absolutely waxed the Dallas Cowboys. It's crazy. I'm watching this game and I'm saying to myself, what the hell? Mike McCarthy, go away. Like, they don't show up. Prescott plays poorly. You keep them in the game. Then they score a touchdown. Then you don't know onside kick. I mean, that's a story for another day. But now, all of a sudden, you got to go on the road to take on Denver. And two gloves, Mr. ATS, check down Teddy. And now Denver got to win. They're feeling pretty good.
By the way, check down Teddy. I think his completion percentage is 70. So
I'll tell you right now.
You do that against the Eagles, you might get another 90%. I mean, he's taking every check down he can get.
70.2.
Yeah. So, there's going to be a lot of completions. That Denver team is because I don't think Vic Fangio is a good head coach, but he's a damn good defensive coordinator.
No doubt.
You can make a strong argument that he might be the best defensive mind in the NFL. So he can create some havoc. And that's the kind of guy who's going to make things really, really difficult for a young quarterback. That's my concern. That's my early concern going into this week for the Eagles.
Yeah, their defense is underrated. They gave up 13 respectively to the Giants in Jacksonville. They blanked the Jets. Okay, fine. They're not, burning any holes in the offensive game plans of yesteryear. But then they only gave up, 17 to the Browns. They gave up 10 to Washington, and they gave up 16. And in essence, they were pretty much going to shut out Dallas Cowboys. So they played well. Now, again, the question is, how's that defense going to look without Von Miller? I think we kind of got an idea against the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're going to blitz the heck out of Jalen Hurts. I think they're going to dare this kid to throw it. And we've seen this. When he starts to roll out to his right, you can start to question the decision-making. I think this would potentially be a low-scoring game that plays right into Denver's hands.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, anybody who goes back to those Chicago defenses that got Vic the job in Denver, and, that was sort of when the post-Khalil Mack trade, they were dominant at times, and they were the most difficult defense at times to deal with in the NFL. He's just really good. Like I said, I don't think he's a great head coach, but as a defensive mind, I don't think I would pick one guy before Vic Fangio when it comes to game planning for young quarterbacks, and that's not just Jalen Hurts. That's any young quarterback. He's gonna give those guys problems. He always does.
I know the NFL is such a week-to-week proposition. I mean, it's so cliche, but we see it, right? I mean, everyone.
Oh yeah, you saw it in Dallas.
Yeah, you saw Dallas.
You can rip Mike McCarthy. I think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender on the NFC side, and they just got waxed by a team. You didn't see it coming.
No.
You didn't see it coming.
Well, what about Buffalo and Jacksonville? I mean, they
had exactly.
Buffalo's. No, I don't hear a lot of people talking about Buffalo's offense. I really don't. And Josh Allen did not play particularly well. Plus, it's never good when you're slinging it 47 times. They could just not get that ground game going. Diggs is a great player, but I'm still waiting for that explosive type of Diggs type of game, and he really hasn't had it thus far this year. That Buffalo offense, that would kind of concern me a little bit, especially against a bad Jacksonville team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of Josh Allen on Josh Allen.
That's right.
Not a great performance by the Bills' Josh Allen for certain. I mean, yeah, you still have those games with Josh Allen that kind of concern you. I don't see anybody, and that's why I look at Kansas City. As bad as they have been, and they were bad again, especially offensively, if they can figure things out in the second half of the season, and Steve Spagnuolo can make them even a competent, and I'm not talking top 10. I'm just saying not historically bad defense. I think they're still going to be in the mix. You saw Baltimore. I mean, they had a ton of issues with Minnesota, but Mike Zimmer finds ways to lose every week.
He's horrible. Thank God they
all those teams in the AFC at the top of the AFC, Tennessee, obviously, with no Derrick Henry. I can't even pick a leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah, but John,
except to default to Andy Reid.
I can't do it. I can't do it after what I've seen the last 2 weeks. Their offense stinks. Patrick Mahomes is regressing. He looks so off. Like, you almost have to wonder if he's hurt.
I tell you that story. I got freezing cold take about pointing out when Patrick Mahomes got drafted. He had terrible mechanics. He still does. But people don't get it. It's like because he's so talented and so unbelievable. I always express it to people this way. You know, if you're teaching a young kid who doesn't have that talent to play quarterback, you don't want to show him Patrick Mahomes tape.
No.
You don't want to show him no-look throws over the middle of the field across your body.
No.
The mechanics were always terrible. He was able to overcome them because of the generational talent, but they're still there. Those bad mechanics are still there. And, yeah, it's going to be an issue at certain points, and you're seeing it this season.
I wonder if, and the Browns releasing Beckham to me, he was a non-factor, but you almost get this sense where it's, and I also think Cincinnati, you know, maybe I bought into Cincinnati a little too much, their stock, but, you know, Cleveland goes on the road. You get a couple big turnovers. Again, that quarterback, I don't know if you're going to win because of Baker Mayfield, if that makes sense. Like, I watch a lot of the Cleveland Browns, and I'm just not seeing it, but I'll say this. You know, look, they bounced back from a bad loss against the Steelers when obviously he was banged up. They've had a couple nice wins. You know, that opening night loss, I think, kind of set the tempo for them. And 5-4, you look at that cluttered division right now. Baltimore gets the gift, even though they're out on, and then some last night. I mean, that broadcast, they thought the kick was good. I mean, I don't know, whatever you're watching there, guys.
It was only 10-plus yards short.
I mean, I still think the AFC North is up for grabs. I do, because you know, Baltimore, as much as I like Lamar Jackson, I still see some of these plays where I'm like, what are you doing? Don't roll out and then throw across your body like that. Some of these bad turnovers.
Yeah, same thing what I was talking about with Mahomes a little bit. You know, Lamar is there's a little bit of, obviously not the same athleticism, but there's a little bit of that uniqueness with the Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts because he can look bad with the throws to Dallas Goedert, as you mentioned, Devontae Smith, and all of a sudden he's making big plays in the fourth quarter, the somersault play. You see that all the time with Lamar. I mean, I think the Ravens scored 3 straight times. They were down 2 touchdowns. They scored touchdown to take the lead in that game. Ultimately, Minnesota tied it, went to overtime. We know Justin Tucker's going to make that kick. So, yeah, I mean, they're everybody. If you push me to pick the best team in the AFC today, I'd probably say Baltimore, but any of those teams can be beaten. Yeah. And that's why, for the AFC side, I'm going to be looking at who's hot at the right time in December down the stretch, and that's probably the team that's going to make the run.
Little surprised when we went back to the NFC side of the ball. You didn't mention Arizona, right? No Murray. McCoy steps in. I love the way they run that.
I don't believe in that team.
Really?
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Cliff Kingsbury. I just don't believe in that team. I mean, they're explosive, but
defense is good,
too. You know, we just talked about, Mike Zimmer. They missed a 37-yard field goal in that game. Yeah. That's a bad football team that should have beat them at home with an easy kick and weren't able to do it. I think that they need another step. I'm not saying they don't have talented players, and obviously it starts with Kyler. But I don't think they're ready to deal with Aaron Rodgers or somebody of that nature in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, listen, 8-1 start, you've given yourself a ton wiggle room with the Panthers, Seattle, and the Bears coming up. I mean, they should easily get to 11, 12 wins this year. You know, I look at Green Bay, no Brady, no Rodgers, pardon me. He's probably sitting back watching that game, kind of chuckling a little bit. You know, here you go. You guys wanted to draft Jordan Love.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The NFC has the proven teams now. They have Tom Brady in Tampa. They have Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and even that Rams team, I think. And they're another team that was greatly. You didn't see that coming this week, but I had thought before this week the Rams were the best team in the NFC. So, but when I do look at the NFC, I can't see Arizona getting past Tampa Bays, the Green Bays, the Rams type teams. I just can't see it.
Lastly, before I let you get out of here, you know, I think the Raiders were in a tough spot. I sprinkled a little bit on the Giants in that game. Defense came up big, which is refreshing late in that game. You got the pick six by the X-Man. They got the strip sack late on Carr. I want to ask you about the Raiders because they had to deal with the Gruden, they had to deal with the Ruggs, and then they just cut their cornerback, and it seems like Mike Mayock, you know, I mean,
wow,
all those draft picks. Yeah. I mean, but what do you do with, like, if you're the Raiders, can you go forward with Mike Mayock as your GM?
Well, I mean, probably not because that's how this industry works. But I don't know too many people that were questioning. Look, there were a bunch of red flags with Arnett. So maybe that was more valid. I don't think anybody saw the Ruggs thing coming. And now, you have people talking, oh, is it Las Vegas? Is it being in that environment?
What Peter King
I don't know. Sometimes young people make dumb decisions.
No doubt.
I can't blame that on Mike Mayock, but that's the reality of this industry. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're talking first-round pick that's going to prison, another first-round pick who's threatening to kill people on social media. I mean, that doesn't look good on the GM, fair or not.
No, it does not. And now they signed Deshaun Jackson. Have fun with that. All right, he is Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Will you be on tomorrow morning with Jody Mack?
I will be, but I have to get COVID tested every Wednesday, so I'll be at the NovaCare complex. So I'll be checking in remotely.
All right, we will tune you in. Always appreciate it, Johnny Mac. Have a good week, pal.
All right, thanks, Rich.
All right, our guy, John McMullen, quick timeout.